Travis, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm excited to get after it and into your life story in this conversation.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So how did Ric Flair transform your life?
Ric Flair. Oh, man. So Ric Flair is definitely a childhood hero of mine. He definitely just kind of shaped my, I don't know, part of my personality and my sense of humor. And I just think he's hilarious. Like growing up and watching him, I was a big WWF fan. My dad put me onto it when I was a kid. And he was just one of those guys that just his promo videos are so like electrifying and just the stuff that comes out of his mouth, like you just can't think of that naturally. So he's a legend to me. And then as an adult, when I got into artwork and everything, I did a lot of WWF and WWE artwork. And one day I did a drawing of him and I posted it on Instagram. I tagged him and I didn't think anything of it. I just tag all celebrities when I draw them. And I got a notification on my phone, and then I got a bunch of dings, ding, ding, ding. I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I checked my phone, and he ripped the picture off Instagram, and then he shared it on all of his social media platforms. And that was like, you know, like Ric Flair noticed my artwork, and I thought that was so cool. But he's just my favorite wrestler, and his promos are untouchable. He's just hilarious to me.
So what was that feeling like? Like all of a sudden, did you expect it? Was there any idea that he would do something like that? And then what was the result of all that sharing of your stuff?
You know, I never have, I never go into anything with any expectations. Like I don't ever want to get my heart broken, because when I was younger, when I was pursuing the entertainment industry and trying to get all these things, accomplishments and, you know, all these things under my belt, like everything I did, I was like, so-and-so has to see it. I got to get to this level, da, 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 da. And it was like a roller coaster, because I did have a ton of success, ton of celebrities would recognize my stuff, but then a ton would not. And it was like, I don't know, it was just like you put all your heart and soul into this one piece of content and nothing happens. And then you do another piece that you don't really care that much about, and it like goes way farther than you thought. So I try not to like get excited or have any expectations. So when I did that piece, I had no expectations whatsoever, because this was like years after I've already, you know, had all those false expectations for other stuff. So when it did happen, you know, to be honest, it was really cool. I was like, oh man, like Ric Flair, that's one of my favorites. That's so cool. But I try to stay balanced in the highs and the lows, so I don't, you know, lose perspective, I guess, because I'm telling you, when I was younger, it was a roller coaster. So like crazy things could happen now, and I'm just like, oh, that's cool. That's cool.
So what happened when you were younger to transform yourself into this person? I mean, what are you alluding to here?
I think a lot of it comes with just age and experience. Like when I was pursuing the entertainment industry, you know, like for example, part of my story, like I always had a goal to have a show on MTV. So I'm 35 years old now. When I was 25, that was my goal. 10 years ago, MTV was, you know, pretty hot. Now that would be the last thing on my list. So I landed a show on MTV.
Why was that the goal? They filmed the show. Sorry to cut you off. Why was
I don't know. It was like I grew up watching MTV,
mm-hmm.
and then I'm getting bigger and bigger on YouTube. I'm getting all these opportunities and things coming my way, and it was like I always just had like a goal that I would set something like kind of unrealistic, where I'm like, I don't know how the heck that would ever happen. And then I'm just like, I'm just going to make it happen though. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a show on MTV. And I just kind of spoke it into existence. And like years after grinding on YouTube and doing commercial work and all this other stuff, my phone rang and it was a producer from MTV. But the thing is though, the show didn't air after they filmed it. So as far as like, I got my goal, and then it was like, and crashed and everything. At a young age, when that happens, I was like, this is the end of my life. Like I lost.
Yeah.
So from there on out, anything that happens, I'm just like, cool, or it's okay.
How does one go about getting a TV show from MTV? What was that journey like?
Oh man, that's a good question. It was a lot of just putting out content that would kind of fit the mold of that. So I did a lot of street art and YouTube videos, and my following was like an MTV fan base, like that type of crowd who loves hip hop, who loves pop culture, and that's the stuff that I was doing. So it kind of just, I don't know, you could say law of attraction type stuff, just kind of gradually went towards that and that fan base and that genre, and then it kind of got the attention of those people. I never tagged MTV. I never like sent in an audition tape or anything. It was just like, it just, I don't know, it just that was like the hottest network at the time that would pick up something similar to what I was doing.
Okay, so you get that phone call. How does that feel?
Yeah. Now at the time, that was crazy. Like I recorded it. I have that. I'll put out a documentary one day, but I have the phone call where I got the call from the producer, and he just said, "Hey, this is Patrick from MTV. You know, we've been watching you, and you know, we just wanted to pitch a show to you." And da da da. So like I was just kind of like in shock. I looked at my best friend at the time, who I used to do videos with, and I just looked at him, and I'm just like, dude, it's happening. Like all this years of hard work, like MTV is about to put us on. And I was blown away. I hung up the phone and I was just speechless. And then the next day I quit my job pretty much and off to LA.
How many years were you grinding away?
Oh my gosh. Well, what year was that? So the show was supposed to air in 2013. So this was a while ago. So 2013, I started making videos in 2005.
Wow.
So, but to me, that's not even really that long of a time.
Yeah.
I mean, what's that, 7 years? But I mean, I've been doing like, but then again, I was born in 85. So YouTube, the internet, all this stuff wasn't even around when I was a kid. Like these kids these days, they grow up on TikTok, 5 years old. They already have a TikTok account making content. But, you know, I didn't get into video until I was in my early 20s. And then I just, you know, I've been doing artwork my whole life. So, I mean, I would say it took 25 years to get there. But as far as grinding on YouTube, like I was one of the original, you know, YouTubers. Not that I was famous or anything, but like I got on YouTube when it was like starting up kind of thing.
Wow, that's really interesting. And what do you think about YouTube drew you to it? And like you identified that as a place to put your stuff. And that's, a lot of people saw that and didn't upload or saw it say, that's pretty cool. But you took that initiative and said, oh, I'm actually going to use this platform. I'm going to put content out. What made you do that?
Yeah. Well, I actually, I started on YouTube. I was actually going to this church, and there was like a bunch of, the whole church was just like young people. And it was a lot of like for me, I'm unchurched. I did not grow up in church at all.
Really?
And so a lot of the people, oh yeah, not at all. 18 years, never even, nothing with God or anything. And when I started going to church at 18, it was a bunch of young people who were unchurched also. And it was like, we just like bonded, and everyone was like a comedian there. Everyone was so funny. So we all came together, and I was the leader of it. And I was like, dude, let's go on YouTube and start a sketch comedy series, like kind of like a clean sketch comedy. And it was so stupid, but it was so funny to us. And we just did that, and it fizzled out pretty quickly because people just have like busy lives, kids, wives, blah, blah, blah. And it was just something that people couldn't really commit to. But man, it was fun. And that kind of got my feet wet in video because my roommate made videos in college. And I was just like, man, that's another art form that I feel like I would be good at because I feel like I have the eye for it. So let me just try it out. And then it led to the sketch comedy. And then when that fizzled out, I was like, well, I want to keep making videos and I want to keep getting better. So my best friend at the time, he was a rapper and he would make beats. So I was like, all right, you do the music, you rap and make the beats and freestyle about whatever I paint. So we would paint, or I would paint like pop culture cartoons. We were called the Homeless Heroes, and just anything that I painted, he would rap about. And at first, like, you know, we just did it for fun. I didn't know anything about, there was no YouTube partnership. There was no monetization, nothing. It was just like, let's just do this for fun. And I did it basically just like so people at church could watch like my cool videos or whatever. And then I think we had a couple videos that like got like thousands of views and we're like, whoa, people are like watching this that we don't know. And then it kept growing. And then I was like, that's like when it sparked. I'm like, dang, if I can reach all these people, maybe I can reach some like celebrities and like get some recognition or maybe sell some stuff. I didn't know anything about the profitable side of it. I was just literally just for fun. And that's like the beauty of it. Like that doesn't exist anymore. Like everyone that makes a YouTube video, like in the back of their head, they're like, I hope I can bank on this going viral. When back in the day, it was like, let's just create to just be creative, you know? And for the most part,
yeah.
Some people still do it for the love, but it's hard to, you know, knowing what YouTube is now, it's hard to make a video and have a clean heart. Like, oh, this is strictly for fun. I hope no one sees it. I just do this because I love it, you know?
Yeah. I think it's really important to know who you are and what you're trying to do. This video right here, this podcast right here is for the love. If it goes viral, it takes off, amazing. But that's not the point and intent of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it seemed like for you, it was always like, I'm doing it for the love. I'm doing it for the enjoyment of it. And that is the most pure form of expression, of creation. And that's where the best things tend to happen from my perspective. Because if you do
100%.
with the intent of fame or the intent of other people seeing it, it's clouded in some way and people can sense that if they're really tuned into it. So
could not agree more.
So continuing on your story, it's like, at what point do you go on Jay Leno and all these TV shows and start getting recognized? Is this before MTV picks you up or is this after?
Both.
Okay.
So before MTV, I have a little bit of a blurry timeline because I've done a lot of crap. I know Jay Leno was after MTV.
Gotcha.
But then I went to the Fantasy Factory with Rob Dyrdek and Machine Gun Kelly. All that stuff was before MTV. I kind of did a few things before and after. But I'd say the majority of stuff was like during YouTube. And then after MTV approached us, then I kind of like put all my cards into the MTV basket, and then YouTube like kind of started taking a back seat, which was really stupid, but I didn't really have time to commit to it. And then it just kind of spiraled downhill from there.
Yeah, take me through that. I mean, a lot of people listening might have a dream or a goal that they set for themselves. Hit it, be on top of the world, and then lose it or it doesn't work out in the way that they expected. And it seems like that's exactly what happened to you. So take us through the quote-unquote downfall of your goal or dream and how that unraveled.
Yeah, so I would say, started off on YouTube completely with a pure heart, strictly for fun. Then once we started getting attention, just from random strangers, I said, hey, I can build this into a business. I can go farther than just doing this for fun. So that's when I started doing paintings for like big YouTubers. I would reach out to big YouTubers or study them, the ones that I liked, and I would say, okay, what's he into? What's his favorite cartoon? What's his favorite superhero? Whatever. And what I would do is I would paint their favorite superhero. And back in the day on YouTube, they usually had like a fan mail PO box in their description. So, they're getting a bunch of like love letters from kids, like, oh, blah, 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 or like whatever. And then they go to their PO box and there's a 4-foot painting that they can't even fit in their car. So right away, I got their attention. Then they open it and they're like, holy cow, this is a legit painting. And then they see the price on the package of how much I paid to ship it to them, because oversized fees are not cheap at the post office. So they're like, okay, this is probably not a kid sending me this, so I'll have my information in there. I remember one time, this really got this guy's attention. I did a painting for him, or a bunch of paintings, and I sent them a DVD player back when DVD players were actually a thing, and it had a DVD in it. And when he opened it up, he hit play, and then it was me talking to him, like, yo, man, I just wanted to say I'm a big fan, and, I would love to collab on a video, da 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 da. And this guy had 2 million subscribers at the time. He was one of the YouTube OGs, and literally after he watched the DVD, he called me and he's like, yo. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Now I got the formula. I can get a hold of anybody I want to as far as a YouTube celebrity. So I started doing that, and I just started doing paintings like crazy for big YouTubers. And then they would open up the painting on camera, shout me out, and then I'd get like 5,000 to 10,000 subscribers, the day they released the video. So I'm like, oh man, okay, this is how I'm going to grow. And it was genuine too, because I really liked these guys, and I wanted my artwork in their house, and they loved it. So they just kind of shouted me out as a thank you. And then I was just building relationships that way. And that's how I kind of rose on YouTube and got people's attention. And then once I got YouTube celebrities' attention, I was like, all right, let's get some big celebrities that are like household names maybe. And then that's when I met like Hulk Hogan and Rob Dyrdek and all these other people. I just put myself in a position where I'm like, whoever I wanted to meet, I just went for it and somehow weaseled myself into their presence. It's crazy, but I just was like, I'm just going to go for it, and I can do this.
Yeah, that's the formula for getting people's attention, really personalized message, and you have the juice, the talent to actually, once you have their attention, to actually deliver on that message. But back to the MTV, what happened for the downfall? This is all the way up, Travis. I love it.
Yes, that was all. Yeah. So I'm young, and I'm naive, and anything that the industry tells me, or anyone that anything I hear, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm acting like everyone's like out for my good. And if you're in the behind the scenes of the entertainment industry, it's not exactly. It's pretty cutthroat. Let's just put it that way. And so anyway, MTV approaches me after I keep rising, and they promised me the world. Oh, we could do a spin-off show, like your talent, your looks, your charisma, blah blah blah. Just yes man type stuff. And so we filmed the show 3 months, 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, back and forth from Florida to LA. I mean, it was very stressful, very manipulative as far as how they filmed the show, because I don't know if this is true on all reality shows, but first of all, they didn't like filming with me because of the fact that I made videos for years. So I wasn't an 18-year-old kid that they could say, hey, say this or do this, and they just do it. I wouldn't do it because I knew that they were going to edit it a certain way. They wanted me and my best friend to fight. They wanted me to say certain things that would make other people look bad. And I'm like, nah, that's not my style. So I was really seeing the inside of how, scripted TV works, because first of all, all reality shows are fake. And second of all, drama sells. I mean, drama. And I was the clean cut guy who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't curse, all this stuff that's on MTV. So they were like, visually, the show was amazing. I saw it, like the street art. They took me out to the best like street art galleries in LA. Like the show was shot awesome. And then they didn't air it. And my producer told me, he's like, listen, man, you're just too clean cut. Like you don't have the drama that we want. And we shelved the show because it's just not going to sell. And I think it would have, though, because it was that good visually, but they're so caught up on drama that they're like, this is, you know, it was like at the peak of like Jersey Shore, where it's like, if there's no fighting and drinking and smashing and blah, 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 like it's not going to sell. So let's just shelve it. And I guess they shelve a lot of shows. A lot of reality shows get filmed and they never air them. So I wasn't alone, but of course I felt alone, and I'm like, man, like that was my goal for whatever reason. And then it didn't happen. And like, where do I go from here? I let my YouTube channel go. And you know that if you take time off from the internet, like you're pretty much dead after a certain amount of time, because there's too many people chasing other people's attention, and you just fall through the cracks, and like people forget about you really quick. And so I just like kind of like hit rock bottom. A couple things are still happening though, like Jay Leno, like I had a video that went viral after MTV, and then Jay Leno flew me out to be on the show. And there was a couple like brand deals and stuff that was still falling or coming through. But everything else was falling through, where it was just like, I lost the momentum, I feel like, and I defeated myself, and I was my worst enemy. And then like, I was also getting burnt out too, because, you know, it started out so pure, but then when money started coming in and all these other opportunities, I got clouded. Like I was young and I had too much attention coming on me, and it messed up my vision. It really did. I can admit that and say, like, I messed up too, because also I had too much pride, where there were some big YouTubers that would have helped me out, and I couldn't ask for help. I just couldn't. I felt like, I don't know. They were way bigger than me. So I felt like I can't ask them for help, because like they'll just be like, who are you? Get on my level and then maybe I'll help you. Because that's how a lot of people are in that industry. You're like, oh, you don't have the same amount of subscribers with me? I'm not collabing with you. It was like that type of environment. So, and you know, some of those people that I know would have helped me, I didn't ask, because I just felt weird, and I felt defeated from MTV, and it was just a snowball of negative stuff. And I deleted everything, bro. Crazy. I deleted all my social medias, and I was just like, screw it. And I just said, I don't want to be in this world anymore, as far as social media and entertainment and all that. And the itch never went away though. Like it was just a temporary, like, bad time for me.
I think what you're experiencing is pretty common, because when you're in that mode of just chasing attention, even if you start with pure intent and then you add money to the mix, it can sometimes take hold of you. And I admire you for being able to talk about it openly at this time. So talk me through how you bounce back from that, because that's pretty fascinating. Is like you took yourself out of that mental spiral in some way. How did you transform yourself back on the way up?
So I think a lot of it has to do with time, because I do believe time has a lot to do with kind of healing your wounds. I do believe a lot of it has to do with my faith and my relationship with God, because I feel like I kind of got distracted, and I never like went back to like living crazy or just doing kind of things in my old lifestyle. But I definitely lost focus of what my purpose is and why I'm here on earth. I put all my identity and purpose into like trying to be famous or trying to chase the wind, is what I call it. Because at the end of the day, if I have 10 million followers on Instagram, the second I die, none of that matters. None of it matters. And my relationship with God always matters, especially for eternity. I mean, I know some people don't believe in what I believe in, but for me, like, that completely changed my life, and that is the reason why I wake up every day. So for me to bounce back, it had to do with time. It had to do with getting my relationship on point with God, and these all go together with me: physical, spiritual, and mental, because nutrition and fitness completely rocked me too. And you know that. I know that you work out and all that. So like, that is huge, because after I'm 5'7". After MTV, I got up to 167 pounds. So now that's not a lot of weight, but for me, it was like my face was real thick, and I was just like, I let myself go. And so after that, I ended up losing 42 pounds. I got down to 125,
Wow.
which kind of sounds like a high school kid weight. But you know, I'm like a small, like, shredded athlete frame, like a little Pacquiao like body, and like, so that's my ideal weight, 125, 135, in that range. And so once I got all that weight off and I started eating better, because bro, you know this, man, like nutrition, bro, we don't talk about it enough. Bad nutrition, depression, anxiety. Like, why are we not talking about that? And you know, this pandemic, everything, like nutrition is so important to changing your mind, your body, your chemistry, everything. So it was a combination of God, of nutrition, fitness, and just getting my mind right of what I'm here for. And at the end of the day, nobody cares. And like your followers and all that stuff, it just doesn't matter. It's cool. Like, you can use your numbers as influence and you can impact people's lives. I think that's so cool. And that's where I struggle a lot, because I'm like, I don't care about none of that. But then it's like, yeah, but I can like inspire a lot more people. So, you know, but yeah, to bounce back, God, fitness, nutrition, and just remembering like what you know, what life is about.
That's beautiful, man. How did you get into the church and God to begin with when you were 18? You said you weren't brought up into it. So how did that happen?
Yeah. Oh man, you ready for this story?
I'm born ready, baby.
Oh, bro. Okay. So I'll just tell my testimony. So I'm Italian. I grew up in New Jersey. Family life far from godly. You know, you can Google my last name if you know what I mean. And you know, with that said, growing up, I just never really believed in God that much. Like, I was a typical Catholic in New Jersey, and I can say that because I grew up that way, where it's like you go to church every other Christmas, and you know, it's just like you live however you want, but then every other Christmas you're like, oh yeah, God, you know, it's nothing. It wasn't real to me. There was no relationship. And then when I got into college, I came down to Florida. So I went from New Jersey to Florida. And when I came to Florida, you know, born again Christians, there's a lot of them down here. And I was just like, what the heck is a born again Christian? Like, I don't even know what that was. I don't know anything about Jesus. I don't know nothing. So I go to college and like I'm partying hard freshman year, just like every college kid, you know, in New Jersey. Like, that's all I did was party in high school. Like, I got all that out of my system young. And I was kind of always somewhat mature for my age, even though I acted like an idiot, but I still like had like a mindset of like, I don't know, I just knew that there was more to life instead of just girls and partying. So I get to college and I'm doing my thing, and then like freshman year goes by and I just kind of like hit rock bottom, and I'm like, this is like not fun. Like, yeah, it was fun for a season, but like, what is the purpose? Like, what am I doing with my life? I'm 19. Yeah, I'm young. I got to figure it out. But like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. This is so pointless. So basically, growing up, I was kind of rebellious. I never had a great relationship with my mom that I would want or be proud of. I was just just I don't know, just a punk kid. So fast forward to the end of my freshman year, I go to my parents' house for a break. I don't know. I think it was Easter break. And I remember I was at rock bottom mentally. I was laying in bed and I was crying and I was just miserable. I don't know, just going through it. You know how it is sometimes when just people just get that point in their life and they're just like, I don't know what the point of living is. So I'm laying there crying in bed, and I prayed, and I said, God, I don't know if you're real or not, but I need you to show me that there's more to this life, because I don't want to really, I wasn't suicidal, but I didn't care if I got up the next day either. And at the time, me and my mom were fighting. So I pray, I said, and God, let me know everything's going to be okay with my mom. Amen. So the next day, my cousin's in town. We go to this basketball court. We drive over to Naples, Florida, which is like a really nice area. There's no homeless people at all. Like, it's really nice where we were at. So we go to this basketball court. I start playing basketball. This freaking homeless guy walks up to me. So I'm like, all right, being from New Jersey, like, we kind of brush homeless people off. We're like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, I ain't got time for this. This guy looked, I'm telling you, bro, like, I don't think it was, or I'm not like trying to get all weird into it, but this guy looked just like my grandpa, bro. Same eyes and like everything. Like, he had my attention. I'm like, dang, this dude. So he's like, hey, can I borrow your basketball? And since he like looked so much like my grandpa and freaked me out, instead of pushing him off, I was like, yeah. So I give him the ball. So he starts doing these trick shots, and he's like, yeah, I used to do all these trick shots for my grandson. And I used to do trick shots for my grandpa all the time on camera. So I thought that was kind of weird. So then he gives me the ball back. Now, mind you, the whole time he's talking to me only. Doesn't talk to my cousin at all. Could care less that my cousin's even alive. Looking me dead in my eyes. And I don't know if you ever had like an old timer talk to you where they look you in the eye and it's like they're like digging into your soul. And I'm like, dude, this is so weird. So he starts talking to me and he's like, hey, what are you doing, man? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, what are you doing? Like, you in college? What are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in college. So then he's like, oh, I remember when I was in college, I was so lost. I was an education major and I switched to business. That's exactly what I did. He said my dad was going to ship me off to the army, but then I got accepted by this one college. That's what happened to me. Everything he was saying was like lining up with my life. And then he said, I used to party so much and I was so lost, but then the Bible changed my life. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, whatever. I still wasn't like, it wasn't clicking that I prayed the night before. So then he gives me the ball back and then he like literally like disappears. Like, he just went off. I don't know where he went. So the craziest part is it's just me and my cousin in this basketball park and we're playing ball, whatever. We play for like another hour. Then we're leaving. I put the key in the ignition and this guy is knocking on my window. Bro, Danny, I'm telling you, bro, he can't, he was gone. And then as soon as I'm putting the key in the ignition, he's knocking on my window. So I'm like, the heck does this guy want? So he's like, roll down the window. So I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, hey, let me talk to you for like 5 more minutes. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. I just felt bad. I had nothing else to do, whatever. So I get out of the car and he starts telling me about Jesus. He's like, hey, man, I just want to tell you about Jesus. Do you know what he did on the cross for you? Have you ever heard this story before? It's more than just being a good person because no one is good or guilty before God. And, he wants to have a relationship with you. And I'm just like, what the heck is this guy talking about? Blah, blah, blah. So he starts giving me the gospel, telling me a little bit more about Jesus. And I'm not really paying attention to him. But then this is when he gave it to me, bro. So he tells me the gospel. Then he tells me, he says, how's your relationship with your mom? So I look at him and I'm like, it still hasn't clicked yet. But I'm like, it's all right. I didn't want to get into it with a homeless guy or whatever. I was just like, it's all right. We're fine. And then he goes, I remember when I was your age, I wasn't that close with my mom and she died. It must be nice to have a mother. And he winked at me.
Oh my God.
So I get in the car. Dude, I look at my cousin and I'm like, what the? And he has no clue because he doesn't know that I prayed the night before and he's not even listening to the guy. He don't know what the heck's going on. He's in his own little world. And so I'm driving back to my dad's house and I'm like, that did not just happen. Like, that did not just happen. So that was my first experience of like, hey, stupid, I'm real. You know what I mean? Like, because I was so hard-headed that I'm just like, God, you have to show me very clearly that you're real. Otherwise, I ain't going to believe you. I'm not going to believe in you because I was one of those guys. But, I mean, you can just look at anything around you and be like, look at the ocean. Look at a baby living inside of a woman. Like, that is a mind-blowing miracle that, to me, can't happen by chance. That is, like, has to be orchestrated by a creator. I ain't trying to get all on you about, like, God is real or whatever. But I'm just saying, like, to me, like God is so real. And then, so I went back to college, and then this kid who I thought was pretty cool, he was in one of my classes, and we got to know each other. But there was like something like different about him. Like he was just like real, just I don't know. He just had like a light to him. Like he was very positive and just different than everybody else that was. And he didn't party. He didn't live like the rest of the college kids. So I'm like, what's this guy's deal? So then we had like a group project together, and then he got to know me a little bit better. And then I told him what happened to me because I found out he was a Christian. So I'm like, dude, listen to this crazy story that happened to me at this basketball court. And then he was like, yo, dude, you got to come to the Bible study that I do in my dorm room. And I was like, yeah, okay. Like that was just not my style. And then he's like, no. If you don't like it, then you don't have to come back. Like we're just guys, we're hanging out and we're talking about stuff that we've been through and real stuff or whatever. And then I went that night, and bro, I just felt like I felt I would say I felt the Holy Spirit. I felt something different in that room. And then he explained to me like what it means to have a relationship with God and how he can change your life and what it means to have the Holy Spirit and God living in you. And, he kind of explained to me like the difference, like, we're not all God's children. We're all God's creation, but you can't not have a relationship with God and then be like, yeah, I'm a child of God. Like you don't belong to God just because he created you. Like you have to have a relationship, just like me and you are talking right now. If I never talked to you before and then I die and then you're like, who are you? I mean, he knows who you are, obviously, because he created you, but it's like this life is my chance to have a relationship with him and tell others about it, because it's like life could end like that, and I don't know what the point of life is outside of him. I really don't. Like Jesus changed my life, and I would not be in the position I'm in today without that change. Like my thing is, so that's how I came to Jesus. Obviously there's a million more stories and things to it. But for me, it's like you see all these celebrities and all this stuff that I was chasing. Bro, I've been to Hollywood, man. I've been around celebrities. The depression rate, the anxiety, the suicide, the things that happen behind the scenes, it is the darkest world that you could imagine. Why is everyone chasing that? Why? It's wild. And the fact that I removed myself from that and then could see with a clear vision, it's like, and it just every day, God makes more and more sense to me of like, this is the purpose of life. Everything outside of this, you can deny it all day long. Anybody that you talk to, when they hit their head on the pillow, they know that all this clout chasing, all this worldly responsibility, it's meaningless, bro. It's meaningless. So that's in a short form, that's how I came to God, and that's why I'm moving forward in him, because he's just so good. And people have such a negative view on Christianity, and I get it, because I had that view about Christians before I became one. But people are flawed. People, in every religion, there's people that are radical who are not representing that religion correctly. And, it's just, to me, it's more of a relationship with my creator than anything else. It's just, I don't know, not growing up in it and then actually having it radically change my life. It's, it's not like I grew up in a homeschooled church kid where it's like, people are like, oh, you have no life experience. You don't know. It's like, dude, I've lived every way possible. I've done everything that the world has to offer, and it's just empty.
Okay, so take me through why you decided to keep going to the Bible study group and what the people around you were saying about you, because you were a completely different person probably 6 months prior. So
absolutely,
take me through what those around you were saying, and also why you decided to keep going, other than just feeling the presence in that room.
So as far as the, getting back to like certain types of Christians, there's the Christians that will bash you over the head with the Bible, and act like they have no sin in their life and they're perfect. And only they're going to heaven type of thing. Like, the reason I kept going was because it was the Christians that were not like that. They, you go to a hospital because you're sick. You go to church because you are trying to get better. Churches, they act like church is for perfect people. Only perfect people can come here. It's like, no, you go to Jesus to get healed. You don't go to Jesus because you're perfect. So all these people who are saying, oh, I got to get it together and then I'll go to God. It's like, no, come to God and then he will change you. And that's why I kept going back, because every time, like I said, I was kind of like in that stage of my life where I'm like, there's got to be more. So it's either I keep going to this Bible study and keep learning more about God and life, or I could just keep going and getting drunk and just drowning my sorrows, which does nothing for anybody. So when I kept going back to the Bible study, I kept learning more about this Jesus guy and what he's all about, and how much of an amazing teacher and leader he was, even though the world makes him look like a psycho and the Bible's the worst book in the world. These are people who haven't even read the thing,
Don't focus on that energy.
People.
Don't focus on that energy,
It's like, what the heck, So
yeah.
I just kept going back, and and once someone, like anyone who's watching this who has experienced the power of God, like, the reason I kept going back is because you can't not go back. When you feel the presence of God, it's like, man, it's the best high that you can feel. It's better than any drug. It's better than sex. It is the purest. It's the purest thing you can feel. It's just like God. It's like perfection. Like, oh my God, I'm in your presence. You are perfect. You're amazing. Some of these worship songs hit and you just lose it. You're just like, oh my, your soul just starts crying, because it's like, God, I need you. This world has everything that I want, but nothing that I need. You are it. And just when you feel the presence of God, man, there's nothing like it. I can't explain it, because it's kind of like, hey, the stove is hot. Might be. But when you touch it, that stove is hot. So when you experience the presence of God, that he is real. There's no denying it. And that's the only way I can explain it. Like I said, I didn't grow up in church. This is not a fairy tale to me. It's like, once you experience it, it's like, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy.
And what did the people
around you say? And I might sound crazy.
No, you
I don't know. But
I
just know that the joy that God has bring in me, I just want everyone to experience that. So, I'm not over here saying, oh, you're a sinner. If you don't accept Jesus, you're going to hell with the bullhorn. Like, no, God loves you and he wants a relationship with you. And it's on the table. Don't let the world drown out all the negativity that they shed on Christianity, because you have to do the research for yourself and experience God yourself. Don't just go off of your favorite influencer as an atheist. So yeah, that must be right. It's not like that.
Where would you recommend someone start?
I think there's a lot of good resources online. I mean, YouTube is a great example. You can go and watch sermons on YouTube and just kind of just get your feet wet to hear a message. And, because I'm not trying to knock the Catholic Church, but when I grew up and I went to church every other Christmas, the message was like so boring to me, and it didn't relate to my life at all. And it was just like, like, it was kind of like, that was like how I felt, versus you watch these Christian churches now that are like, it's a pastor who like looks like me and you. And, not that you have to look like us for me to listen to you, but I'm saying, like, it was just like, oh, wow, this is more relatable than an old 90-year-old guy in this weird dress, holding this thing. Like, it's just like me and you talking now. And it's like, yo, man, like, that's how it feels. And that's way more relatable. And it just, so there's so many resources. There's tons of Christian YouTubers that are our age and that look like us, talk like us, and they just talk about real life stuff. And it's pretty cool, just to get there. I know a lot of people have like negative views on like televangelists and they're buying private jets and all that type of stuff. Like, it's a big turnoff to people in the world. I get it, you know. But for someone who's just like totally like against church, like, talk to a Christian who is not on the corner screaming at you with a bullhorn. Talk to a real person, and you might feel a little bit differently. Just one bad experience doesn't represent the entire Christian race or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
You know?
So what did you start changing, and then what is the reaction from the people around you in your dorm or your circle?
They're like, what the heck? What happened to you? You know what I mean? You lose a lot of friends because you realize they're not really your friends. Like, people that just get drunk and high with you, you have nothing in common except partying. So when you try and better yourself, you know, you do start attracting better quality people, as far as, you know, maybe not even Christian, but just striving towards something. Not trying to knock people who drink and get high or whatever, but on a serious note though, what are you doing? What are you celebrating? What is your purpose? Like, a lot of the drinking and smoking that happens is to just drown your sorrows. You know, people don't get drunk to be like, man, this is going to make me feel so much better and I'm going to accomplish my goals. You get nothing done when you're drunk and high. Nothing, bro. Like, you can't argue with me about that. Like, I'm not into debating. I'm not into like trying to prove God is real or not. Like, whatever. But I can tell you right now, if you're getting drunk, you're getting nothing done. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
No, you're right. You're right. And so you start changing, you start becoming a different person. And then how does it feel then once you start getting addicted to the attention cycle of having God in your life? Does God's role get diminished? What happens there? How do you balance this Bible study freshman year kid or sophomore year to now chasing fame and chasing Hollywood?
Yep. So it definitely started out where I was like, man, I'm starting to get a lot of attention. So then this can translate to me reaching more people for God. And at the same time, I never went back to my old lifestyle. I never, in my eyes, I never misrepresented God in front of all those eyeballs. Like, I wasn't doing anything that you could question my faith in, or I was trying to live the best I could, you know, in front of all these people and be a good representation of what I really stood for. But you also can get very sidetracked where your ego and, you know, it's a very slippery slope, because if you're not mature, you know, it's like poison mixed with honey. Mm. And if you're not prepared for it, it can destroy you. There's a lot of Christians who, you know, get the fame and then they're like distracted, and then it kind of just slowly and gradually starts shifting focus on worldly things. And what I've noticed is usually they kind of get the worldly stuff that they were acquiring, and then they're like, man, this sucks. This is not what I thought it was. And then they go back to God because they know that that's the only thing that truly fulfills. But it's easy to get distracted if you're not grounded. And I feel like I don't know. I was definitely a little off focus for sure. Like, I still was going to church. I was still, you know, fellowshipping with Christians and trying to, you know, grow as a Christian. But I also was very distracted with worldly visions and goals. And, you know, I mean, we have to eat, we have to make money, we have to live on this earth. So obviously we have worldly responsibilities. But when the money has you, that's when you're in trouble. You know, that's when you get off focus. And you know, I mean, the Bible says you can't serve two masters. And what, you know, sometimes you get more focused on money than God, and then, I mean, it's just unfulfilling. And you know, at the end of the day, I believe God is my provider. And just the money, you know, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being rich as a Christian, because if anybody should be rich, I believe it should be people who are trying to better everything around them in the community. And, you need money. You need for resources. You need money to help people. You need money to change things around you. So I'm not against having money at all. But I am against the money having you.
That's a powerful statement right there. And one thing we need to talk about is your fake TV girlfriend and what happened with that.
Woo, that's a great story. So on MTV, I had a very guy-heavy show because it was about street art, YouTube, all that stuff. And then MTV said, hey, you need a lady interest to get the show a little bit, more reaching the girl demographic. And another thing, too, I made it very clear that I was a Christian, and they said, we can't have that because that's going to eliminate the Muslims, the Buddhists, everyone that's watching. They're not going to like you because you're a Christian. So we're just not going to really talk about any of that. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fake. So anyway, so fake girlfriend, they're like, yeah, you need to have a girlfriend or a love interest. And if you don't find one, then we'll find you one. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to be so awkward. So this girl that was going to my church, I didn't know her that well, but she was an artist. So we had that in common. So I'm like, well, maybe she would want to do it. She is not wanting any type of spotlight or fame. But she had a crush on me, so she decided to do the show. I didn't have a crush on her. I thought she was cute, but I wasn't like pursuing anything. I wanted to accomplish my goals, no distractions. And then we ended up, dating on the show. And then we stopped talking after the show. And then I don't know what happened. I just called her one day to see how she was doing, and then we hung out, and then one thing led to another, and we started dating, and then she became my wife. So I got my wife from the MTV show. So therefore the show didn't work out, but I got my biggest blessing because my wife is crazy, bro. She's so cool. I know so many married men who are miserable because they married the wrong person. And my wife is an artist. She's so chill. No nagging, no fighting. It's like you married your best friend. And she's so cool that our whole house, who do you know that has a wife where your house can look like that?
Wild.
Where you have murals painted all over the wall, just crazy everywhere.
So cool.
And she encouraged that. So, it's just, I married the right one. She's such a blessing in my life. She's so cool. And she balances me out so good. And I didn't think I ever needed that. I didn't even want to get married. And then MTV brought us together. Otherwise, I promise I would have never pulled that trigger.
So wild.
So that's crazy in itself.
Wild to think about. Your biggest goal was to get this MTV show, but you didn't really understand what would come of it. And
right.
And you could never
my biggest goal was MTV.
Yeah.
My biggest goal was MTV, and my other biggest goal was pretty much to not get married.
Why?
So it totally, just flipped, and that it's just, and that's, to me, that's like God's sense of humor. You wanted this, but I blessed you with something so much better.
Why was your biggest goal not to get married?
Because I just felt like if you get married, it just ties you down. It slows you down. It's another responsibility that I didn't want, and I don't know. I mean, that was a younger mindset. I mean, honestly, if I wasn't a Christian and I didn't meet her, I feel like I probably would feel the same way, sadly. But now that it's for me, for example, marriage, the whole point of marriage, to me, my opinion, is to do more for God than you can do by yourself. So if you're not a Christian, I don't know why you would get married. I mean, I understand people get married for love, they want kids, but biblically, to me, the whole point of marriage is to do more for God than you can do by yourself. Otherwise, just have a kid with somebody and live with them. If you're not living for God, and that's not the purpose of your life, because to me, biblically, marriage was designed for glorifying God more. But that's just my Christian perspective on it. But, a lot of people will disagree, obviously. But that's just, if I wasn't a Christian and I wouldn't get married.
How do you guys do more for God together than you could do alone?
So as far as marriage, it's very powerful to when two fleshes become one and you are in sync with someone who's equally yoked with you and has the same like spiritual goals and eternal goals. And and not to get all graphic, but and sex, like there's no one that I'm obviously sexually active with except my wife, and that's a beautiful thing. Like me and her are the only ones in the world that share that together. That's like the glue, to, I believe it was designed that way. Like that's the most intimate thing that you can do, and it brings glory to God. So, stuff like that, like, and then just spiritually having someone, your helper. It's like your helper. It's like your, I don't know. It's just a very beautiful thing when it's done right. The world we live in now, it's like, oh, test the waters, have sex with everybody, watch porn. And I'm like, bro, that destroys your soul. It destroys your mind. It destroys your relationships and your trust. I mean, it's so bad, but it's obviously glorified. Like it's a great thing.
How do we begin to change that?
I mean, for me, it's a relationship with God and trying to walk out the basically the way he wants you to live, because it's not like God is like, hey, don't have sex with a bunch of people because I don't want you to enjoy anything and feel good. It's because, hey, I'm God. I designed you to have a one partner so you can, glorify me and basically I know what's best for you. And I want you to live your best life, so do it my way, and I guarantee it'll be better. Because I can tell you right now, having sex with a bunch of random people, it messes you up mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Like you have soul ties with these people. It just is so bad for you to watch porn. It's so bad for you to be sexually intimate or anything with all these different random people versus being one. And it's hard to say, like, well, how do we change this? Because everywhere we look, it's pushing the opposite agenda. Oh, test the waters, do this, do that. And it's like, but everyone's empty and miserable and depression's through the roof and no one is having meaningful relationships because they're doing it outside of the way it was designed. I mean, nobody can deny that, spiritual or not. People who have sex with a crap ton of people, they're not, I don't know. I've never met anybody who's totally going crazy sexually and they're just like have it all together. It doesn't make sense.
I want to go to the steps that we can take as people to help people see that.
It has to be people actually realizing it, because of the fact that I could tell you, hey, food makes you depressed if you eat processed foods. Hey, you're going to be unstable if you don't work out mentally, physically. You're going to be in bad shape. If you have sex with multiple people, it's going to mess you up emotionally. It's a matter, but some people don't care. You tell them, hey, listen, man, you're overweight. If you would change your diet, you'll lose this health issue and you'll feel better. And they're like, well, I love Oreos. Okay. But then later on, all those repercussions, they hit you pretty hard. So if I tell somebody who's young, hey man, you shouldn't be sleeping around, and they're just like, well, whatever, I got some hot girls and I'm in my prime right now, I'm gonna do what I do. But then later on, they having problems with their wives or with their wife that they married because they're so emotionally unstable, and then they get a divorce. So it's tough to tell the steps because everyone's at a different stage in their journey, and it's so hard. And that's where I just kind of come in, and I try to help people that I know in my circle or that I am in contact with, and I do my best to share my story. And if they're willing to listen and apply it, it starts there. It starts around you. You know what I mean? Like you can be the change around you. I can't change the whole world. I know that, but I can change the world around me the best I can. And I'm just going to try and be the most positive light that I can be. That's all I can do. I can't really do much more than that. It starts in the home,
You change the world by changing yourself.
Yeah.
And what happened where you were 167 pounds? And what was that switch that flipped that said, I need to get it together? Because that is similar to people sleeping around in some respect. Sometimes it's got to be too much in order for you to say, okay, I'm spiritually sick right now. I'm physically sick.
Right.
It's all the same game to me personally. So
Yes.
what happened for you when you were 167 pounds to say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I can't be 168. I can't be 170. Why?
I think it was a matter of just kind of like waking up and looking in the mirror. And it was just that moment that some people have where you're just like, what the heck am I doing? What happened to me? Like I had it together, or you know, I was on the road of really getting better and reaching my goals and doing this or that. And I had a little bumpy spot, but I'm better than this. I know that there's more. And it's hard because some people hit depression so hard and it spirals out of control so bad that some people don't come back from it. And, you know, that's really sad. And I hate that. But for me, I have a very like ambitious personality that it's like all or nothing. So like I was like all out depression. And then I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And then boom, it was all out. Like I am not doing this. And it was just like, I have to turn it around. And it was like a comeback story where I was like, nah, bro, I'm better than this. I know that I was designed for something bigger than this. And I'm coming back. I'm coming back twice as hard. So then I got a six pack and got in better shape than I've ever been in. And I started eating good and I just felt better all around. And, you know, it was a great like little boost of just, you know, I mean, you know how it is when you work out, it's just like a high that you can't explain. It's like, oh, I'm addicted to this. I love it. I feel so good and it's healthy for me. And I just kept going once I started, and then I saw like a little bit of weight coming off. Then it was like, all right, I'm training like I'm going to be on a stage. Let's go.
What advice would you give to someone who's in that situation right now of letting their diet go off? Maybe at work they're holding on to a job they don't like they're not living up to the highest version of themselves. What advice do you have for that person?
I think a huge thing is just committing and preparing, because once I started prepping, counting my macros, and like really like being intentional about each step, because if you just wake up and you're like, all right, I'm going to try and eat better today, and I'm going to try and do this or that, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to fall back into your old ways. But if you have it mapped out and something to follow, it's a lot easier to kind of, yeah, I mean, we're you know, humans are kind of, I don't know, repetition, and like not everyone's structured this way completely, but for the most part, like, you know, if something's organized, we work better. So if you can line it up for yourself of what your goals are, map that out, and then execute it. Stop, you know, when you get home from that job that you hate, don't watch 2 hours of Netflix. Like work on getting out of that job. You know, that's what I did for years. And it, you know, it's not an overnight thing. So if you have a TikTok brain where, you know, you're just like, you lose focus after 2 seconds, you're screwed. You have to go the extra mile and just say, I don't feel like doing this, but I'm going to do it because I have to get out of the situation I'm in. You have to hate the situation you're in enough to change it. Some people love being miserable. It's comfortable to be in your own misery, and it's familiar, and you know, it's like, well, this is how it is, and I don't feel like working hard. Yeah, I hate my situation, but I don't hate it that much. I was at the point where I hated it so much that I couldn't do another day of it.
It's almost
So
worse.
you have to want to change.
It's almost worse when you don't hate it so much and you're in that comfortable it's not the best thing, you're not hating it, and you're in that place of in between, and that's almost the worst because you're not doing anything about it. And that's a really difficult place to get yourself out of it, because then what happens is time sometimes is the only thing that makes you say, wow, I wasted this time. I don't want to waste any more of it. And that's painful because time is our most precious asset on this floating rock in space.
Yes, 100%. Time is so valuable. And I'm learning that, you know, especially as I'm getting older. I'm just like, I don't care about the money anymore. I've had money in the past. I've had all these experiences. Nothing is more important than my time because I don't know how much time I have left. And the little time that I do have left, like I want it to count and I want it to be valuable. And yeah, time is so important. When I was younger, I wasted so much of it because you don't really think about it. You take it for granted. And now I'm just like, no is my favorite word. Like I can't do certain things because it just doesn't do anything. Like I have to have value in my time.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time for this conversation tremendously. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Travis, for agreeing to do this and spending this time. I got chills at one point when you were describing your relationship with God and how that came to be. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for listening.
Where can people find more from you?
So I really, over the years after, all this up and down with social media, I feel like I suck at posting regularly and being on there consistently. I've been decent lately, but Travis Doodles across everything. Travis, Doodles, just all one word. Because I'm Travis and I draw and I doodle. So I just figured my last name is very hard to pronounce. So I just did Travis Doodles because it's just like, it's stupid sounding and it's easy. So
it's a good brand, and we'll link all those below. Any particular favorite place to reach you?
Right now I'm kind of like on a TikTok little spurt, but I mean Instagram is probably the best to like connect and messages wise, stuff like that.
Awesome. And if you got to this point in the episode, let Travis or me know what you thought about it. I really appreciate anyone listening. I appreciate you, Travis, for taking the time, and I'm better off for it. And I hope everyone listening is as well.
Yeah, man, Danny, I really appreciate you for reaching out and asking me to be on it, man. I was honored. I couldn't believe that you asked me. I'm like, dang, Danny's got some big names on this podcast, and he's asking little old Travis Doodles. All right, thanks, man.
It's the energy. It's the energy.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, bro.